Hello, this is Yaakov Kronenberg from Jerusalem, and tonight another class, a first class in a new series of classes on Aquarius ascendant, and the ruling planet, either Saturn or Uranus, in the different signs. And tonight I want to, first of all, tonight we'll do a general introduction on Aquarius ascendant, and the most important thing is, there's a famous question, what is the ruler of Aquarius? Is it Saturn or is it Uranus? And the ancients didn't use the three outer planets. Could be they knew about them, but they didn't consider them, because you couldn't see them, they didn't consider them powerful enough in any way to really work on the physical manifestations in this world. And they worked with 7 planets, the basic 7 planets, and they found everything using those 7 planets. If you read the old astrology texts and the old astrology interpretations of people's charts, they managed to predict with great skill and efficiency what would happen in a person's life without these 3 modern planets. And I have a whole series, 2 or 3 classes on the outer planets. I think it's according to the Torah. I think it's very interesting. I highly recommend it. But in any case, they were talking about Uranus. So my teacher, he held that he held sort of a middle position. He held that really the outer planets, they have some kind of hashpa'ah, they have some kind of influence, but it's not an influence that it's on the physical manifestations in this world. It's mostly on the mental level of the person. And it is not always having effect. Sometimes it's more effective, unless those outer planets are very strong in a person's chart, they don't have much of an influence. So, a lot of it has to do with the speeding up in the world. You see, when the new planets were discovered, the world really went through major changes, and things are starting to speed up very much. And so he held that now that they're discovered, they do have an influence, but it's more on a mental. When you're talking about individuals on a mental level, when you're talking about world events, then maybe it has even more of a hashpah, more of an influence. So he held you have to really use both of the planets. You have to use Saturn. The main indication, of course, for an Aquarius is Saturn rising. There's a whole mystical reason why Saturn. All the Torah all the astrology is based on mystical reasons and that are connected with the Torah. And so there's mystical reasons why Saturn is the ruler of Aquarius, and you can't just get rid of it, it's the main ruler. But in addition to that, we use also Uranus. We take a look at Uranus, and it has an influence also to a degree on the person who has Aquarius rising. You have to also take that into consideration. In our classes, since they're small, the 10-minute classes, we'll talk mostly about Saturn, and we'll touch a little bit where the Uranus is very strong in a chart. We'll touch on that also to give you an introduction to how to use Uranus when you're dealing with an Aquarius ascendant. And so now let's go back and talk about Aquarius itself as an air sign. Is going to be an intellectual orientation. All the air signs are intellectually oriented, communication savvy people. They like to talk. The Saturn maybe is a little more, let's say, held back from speech than the other air signs. It likes to communicate maybe on a deeper level and a more philosophical level, but they're they tend to have a friendliness to them also. It's the lighter sign of Saturn. Saturn is much heavier in Capricorn than it is in a Capricorn ascendant than in Aquarius, because the air lightens the Saturn. So Saturn, I think, works better for an Aquarius. But anyway, it's going to be an intellectual type of Saturn. They like to do things deeply. And it's a fixed sign. They're very fixed in their ideas. And the Aquarians, of all the people, they say you can believe in whatever you want as long as it agrees with what I believe in, That's the Aquarian. And we see that in a lot of, like the modern liberal type of people, they can believe in whatever you want as long as it agrees with us. That seems to be their, their way of looking at the world. They know better than you what's good for you. And that's the Aquarian type of person, They know better than you what's good for you and what's good for everybody. But even so, they're nice people. Aquarius is a human sign. Right? So a person's Aquarius on the ascendant, they have a certain humanity to them. It makes them likable, right? All the human signs on the ascendant tend to be more likable than like people who have, the animal signs on the ascendant or things like that. But it's very fixed. The Aquarius, very firm in their ideas, very firm in their beliefs. Aquarius is connected with the 11th house, the house of friendship. So friendship is very important to them. Right? They try to work things out. They're very interested in 11th house affairs. One of them is friendship. The other thing is groups. They love to belong to groups. All right, we're going to see President Obama's chart. He was a community organizer. That's like the Aquarian. They like to belong to groups and be part of groups. And so you'll see that a lot in the Aquarian signs. Very connected to the 11th house, especially so friendship. And they work hard at building relations with people. I want to talk about one aspect of Aquarius is very interesting. The Aquarian rising is, they have tremendous amount of friends, but they don't have close relationships. You see that also with President Obama. I think I did a chart on his. We talk about that. He's got a lot of acquaintances, but basically no friends. Almost no friends. And that's the Aquarian has a certain. They like to keep their freedom, right? Because of their connection with Uranus, they're freedom loving. And so if a person who loves their freedom, it's very hard for them to have emotional attachments, right? And have close relationships, because that takes away from their freedom. And so if you look at Aquarius, where does Aquarius want to fulfill itself? Aquarius wants to fulfill itself in the 10th house, which is Scorpio, which is really the most emotional of the signs, right? Scorpio is that fixed, that water, tremendously passionate nature, wants to have deep emotional relationships. And all Aquarians really crave for that in the end. That's what they really want in this world. But very few of them get it. I remember my teacher, he always used to say, people... You're very rarely fine. I remember I asked my teacher that too. You just what does Aquarius want? And he says, because it says in 10 houses away is the fulfillment. They want that emotional relations, but they very rarely get it because of their fear of it. So what do? My teacher used to say they sublimate their desire for deep relationships by instead becoming career-oriented, and they use their career as they have a deep, passionate relationship in the end with their career. He said, you see, the Aquarians will talk about their careers as if it's something they love, and have a deep emotional relationship with it. And so they tend to sublimate it. And the real Aquarian, to be successful, has to try to really to learn how to have deep emotional commitments and relationships. And I thank everybody for listening.